Why China isn't as strong as you might think. China pushes nationalism because it realizes it's weak. It wants to create this nationalism and cement itself as if the Chinese party is the same as the Chinese people. Every single day, this is all we ever hear is about how the CCP is China and China is the CCP. And it realizes that its danger for itself is when the people start to turn against the party. It realizes that because it's the only party, that it carries all of the blame. And so, how does it divert this? Well, of course it creates this cool kid club, the largest party in the world. And it allows thousands upon thousands upon thousands of Chinese people to join and promises them a better future, but never really delivers. And it does so in an effort to make people feel as if they're a part of something, even though they're not. They never really get to vote. The other thing to understand is that China tries to create nationalism because the people aren't so closely tight-knit as they would like for you to believe. China pushes these tough agendas for a reason. The main region is of course based upon Han people. Han people in China. They're the main people, right? But there's something to understand, and that is that there are a lot of fractions of different people within the Hans. But there is also a lot of external fractions, not to mention the fact that people from Tibet, Xinjiang, Inner Mongolia, and Manchuria all feel threatened and controlled by Han people. Which is why you see things like what is happening in Xinjiang, where they try to re-educate people.
China used to deny that these places exist. But now we're being given a tour. The message? These are schools, not prisons.
他们受到一定的极端思想感染以后，为了就是把自己思想里面的极端思想的感染程度去除。
But the more we ask, have you been convicted of a crime?
我没有犯罪，我就是犯了错。
Where they try to send Han people there for marriage and to integrate these people into society. Because the Chinese government realizes that this is the only way that it can survive. Basically, the CCP realizes that when the shit hits the fan, these people will turn against it because they have been oppressed based upon their religion, their language, their culture. Everything has all been oppressed by the CCP. And these people will be the first people to denounce the CCP. The next thing to talk about is China's income inequality. You know, China's income inequality is insanely extreme. To put things into perspective, when you consider a certain region of China, these are the richest people in China. The people that are along the East Coast, the people that are living in Shanghai and Beijing, people that live in Shenzhen and Guangzhou. Again, these are the richest people. And you see these people, and they're very privileged to be living in these cities. But what happens once you leave these cities? What happens once you travel west? What happens when you travel to some of the other regions of China? Well, you see poverty that is not found anywhere else in the West. You see, many Americans don't understand real poverty.
我这辈子我都嘛到死我也我脱不了贫。
我想不敢想，我的脱贫这个理想我达不到。
你生在这个家庭里，你不能和人家比。
You know, you go to LA and you look at those horrible tents and things, and it's true. It's a problem that should be fixed. But it's nothing like the poverty you see in China. The poverty that you can see in China is expected to be seen in places like Africa. And it's real. It exists. It would be like seeing a family that lives off of a potato.
几乎我们这些就是早饭几乎都是吃羊鸭这些，直接到这个晚上再吃一顿，就是吃2顿饭。平常时间如果中午啊这些如果饿的话，这些就是羊一煎了烧了，就吃了。
And that's happened in China. China's land disputes. China really wants to have control of the world globally. China has had land disputes with more countries than it even borders. China's had land disputes with 18 different countries. That's right, 18. How is it even possible to have land disputes with 18 different countries? Okay, that's insane. China has had a lot of disputes, of course, over the oceans with countries like Japan, Vietnam, the Philippines, Taiwan. It just goes on and on and on. They have land disputes, basically with countries like India, where they recently were just shooting at each other. They've had them with countries like Russia, where even though Russia and China seem to be on the same side, not really. China has signed agreements with Russia stating that Russia owns these certain pieces of land, even though China still claims them subliminally. It goes to show that even Russia and China are not as good of friends as you think. They're neighbors, but they're not really good neighbors, right? They're not exactly getting along. And even North Korea, someone that China, of course, depends on. And everyone thinks that North Korea is controlled by China, but really, China has land disputes even with Korea. The next thing to talk about is Taiwan. Taiwan is a very special chess piece because China realizes that it can't just go take Taiwan.
Taiwan has officially signed an agreement to purchase 66 of Lockheed Martin's newest F-16 jets, marking the first sale of the advanced fighter jets to Taiwan since 1992. When then U.S. President George Bush approved the sale of 150 F-16, released by SputnikNews.com.
It would be war. So why doesn't China? Why is it? Because again, China realizes that Taiwan is a huge piece of stability for the CCP even today. CCP must maintain itself at top, and it struggles to convince people that the CCP has done anything to actually control Taiwan. This means that people could be unhappy, see that China is losing control. It already has border disputes, of course. We all know the history there, the war and how Taiwan left. But it is fairly obvious again that taking a war with Taiwan would be a loss for China. It would mean that China is continuing its expansion, even though we already know that it is, by building military islands out in the middle of water. Of course, China has been angered recently as America has sold jets and things like that to Taiwan so that Taiwan could strengthen its independence. The next thing to talk about is China's just military in general, actually. While a horrible thing to consider is war, and this is something that I really dislike talking about, because we all know that war would just mean the deaths of millions. And it's not a joke. It is a real thing to consider for a moment. China has the largest military in the world, based upon personnel. They have the most people in today's world, but in today's world, people are just meat shields. Everyone cares about ships and aircrafts, and again, people would just die. When you look at the amount of armored fighting vehicles America has compared to China, it's shocking. When you look at America's Air Force compared to China, again, it's shocking. The American Navy has 20 aircraft carriers, and China has 2. But that being said, the idea of America versus China is again horrible. But for some reason, China continues to push this agenda of saying that America is bad and that America wants to take over China, when that's just not true. But the main thing to consider is that China would not just be taking on America. It would be taking on all the enemies it has created in the world for years. It would be taking on Taiwan, in Japan, and South Korea. It would be taking on India. There are so many enemies that China has created. Again, China doesn't want war. China isn't as strong as it wants people to think. It is all about propaganda, so that the party can keep on top. But the last thing that the CCP actually needs is war. Like, comment, subscribe, and have a good day.